What's up, Fern Family? Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're doing well. The other day I came across this glass bottle, and since it has a nice flat front, I thought this would be an amazing opportunity to make another small terrarium. Now, I've made smaller terrariums before, but this one will be a very unique challenge to me, as this will be the smallest opening I've worked with yet. So whatever we're gonna build in here will have to fit through this opening, which is definitely gonna be a challenge. But I think it will be a lot of fun to see what we can make with this. Now, before we can get started scaping this thing, there are a few things we need to address first. First of all, it doesn't have any sort of cork or whatever yet. Now, I found one cork right here and it kind of fits, but it's just a little bit small. If we insert it into the top, I won't be able to get it back out again. So we'll need to wait until the thing is completely finished before we seal it up forever. And the second thing I want to address is that I would like to have some kind of stand that slightly tilts this thing backwards. I think it will look really cool. So let's go over to my work shed and make a nice little stand.
To make a stand for this bottle, I have a couple of boards. I'll combine these to make a simple and elegant stand. Once cut to length, I used a combination of wood glue and super glue to attach these together. The super glue will give me a quick hold while the wood glue dries. Next, I used the same technique to attach two triangular pieces to the base as well. Once everything dried, I sanded the whole thing down and rounded over the edges. And the final step is to apply a stain. I decided to try a new color of stain, but I didn't like it at all. On camera it's not too bad, but in person it's way lighter and way more yellow. You can get a better idea of the color in the next shot. Anyway, I picked up another stain and this one is just beautiful. It's also much easier to apply evenly. I just slapped it on there and it spread out evenly on its own.
And just like that, we have a nicely stained wooden stand for our bottle. But there is a little oversight. I don't know how it happened, but it is definitely out of balance. And we have a couple of options on how to fix this. First, I could break off these little legs, make something new on there, tilt it backward even further, but I don't think that will look good. I think the best option will be to cut a piece off the bottom. This will shorten the legs a little bit. This will remove the angle at the bottom here. So the whole stand will move a bit lower, but it will also make this corner here a flat piece. So there's way more space, way more to the front where this thing can lean on, and I think that will be just enough for this thing to hold on to. So that's what I'm gonna try to do.
I took some measurements and then marked all the sides of the cut. This makes it much easier to make a straight cut.
Alright, here we are, attempt number 2. I think it looks much better being slightly lower to the ground. But let's see, does it hold? It does, and it is quite sturdy either way. It needs to tip pretty far forward. Yeah, the weight is not gonna be there. Yeah, this is great, this is great. Now, next step is, I already attached a piece of double-sided tape to the bottom of this, because I'm not gonna wait for the stain to dry again. So instead of staining the bottom, I got a little piece of geotextile fabric.
With the fabric in place, it's now finally time to scape this thing. To ensure the longevity of this terrarium, we'll first need to add a drainage layer. And I decided to use black rubber for this one. Next, I added a small piece of geotextile fabric to keep the drainage layer separate from the substrate. I did cut this a little bit too long and had to remove it to make it fit properly. Next, it was time to add the substrate. I'm using my usual substrate mix with one small change. I've mixed in small pieces of charcoal, so we don't need to add a dedicated layer. The substrate was also already colonized by lots of springtails, so you don't need to add those later. As you can see, I had to add the substrate little by little, as this is about as much as I can fit through the opening. Kind of anticipated this to be a frustrating process, but funny enough, it was actually quite relaxing. After filling the bottle up with substrate, I gave it a quick spray with water and wiped down the glass. Next, it's time to select the hardscape materials. I decided I wanted to use dragon rock, so I dug through my box of smaller stones to find the ones that could fit through the opening. Once I found some stones I could work with, I began adding them in there. I deliberately sloped up the substrate underneath up towards the top left corner, and this in combination with how I plan on placing the stones will help me create a triangular composition, which I think will look really cool. I'm going for a sort of dried up stream aesthetic, but I'm mainly letting the rocks decide how everything will look. After getting a few rocks in, I felt it might be a good idea to start adding some moss. To keep the focus on the hardscape, I decided to only use thread moss, which I collected outside. I soaked this in a bit of water to get rid of any hitchhikers and to make it easier to remove unwanted plants from between the moss. After adding the bulk of the moss, I wanted to include some wood into the terrarium. I got a few of these tiny black spiderwood branches that I think will look perfect in here. I had to use tweezers to get them in place, but once they were, I think they added a lot to the scape. But it does feel a bit empty on the right side, so I worked on that next. I added a bit more moss and even smaller bits of dragon rock. And just like the substrate, I had to add this little by little. I then moved the bigger rock more towards the left and then sprinkled some more fine gravel around it.
And there we go, we finished the terrarium, so now it's time to plug the end with our little core.
I'm really happy with how this terrarium turned out, but I want to know what you guys think. Let me know down in the comments, and while you're down there, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And in case you're hungry for more content, I recommend you watch this video next to see me build a jewel orchid terrarium. I'll see you there.